Hey YouTube family, in this video we're going to cover some knee and ankle mobility and maybe some other stuff because you never know. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do, or smash that like button for the algorithm, of course. Let's find a comfortable seat. I want you to take your hands behind you and then slowly extend the one knee maybe in front of you. Now the other leg can be bent. You can have it out to the side. It doesn't really matter. But let's focus on just the one leg for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to dorsiflex the ankle. And from here, we're going to rotate the tibia. So this is going to be knee rotation. I'm going to try to go to one side, just figure out where that is and how much rotation I actually have, if I can do it at all. And then I'm going to rotate to the other side. And the first one, I'm just kind of assessing the rotation while the knee is in flexion. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give it some intensity. So we're going to turn to one direction and we're going to flex. I like to think of this like you're flexing your muscle. Traditionally, people say flex. Everyone takes their bicep up and flexes, but we can flex any articulation. And right now we're articulating rotation and knee flexion. So let's flex where we are. So try to increase that intensity. And you're holding this a little bit longer, right? Maintaining that tension. And then we're going to slowly move to the other side and go into your end range. And then focus. Flex. Internal rotation with knee flexion. Like, what do you have? It's like we're at a bodybuilding contest for knee rotation. Okay, other direction, go and flex. You should be getting fatigued. You might feel a little intensity, possibly cramping. You should be feeling it around here in this area. You might also feel the ankle because we're using that a lot, but we're rotating the tibia. The main rotation is here in the knee, other direction and hold. Keep this going 5 or 10 seconds. Okay, let's take this, or release this, and let's take this into a ankle car. I'm gonna take my arm underneath, the same side arm, ipsilateral. Then I'm gonna take the opposite arm, contralateral. I'm gonna hold the shin now because I don't want to rotate the tibia. And then we're gonna go through the directions and we're gonna point, that's plantar flexion. And then I'm going to come up into dorsiflexion. That's pulling the toes towards me. And we think of inversion. We're going to take the outer blade and push it towards the floor. The insole's coming towards you, pushing the blade down. And then eversion is the opposite. I'm pushing like the big toe and the heel down to the floor. That's also lifting that pinky side of the foot, the blade. And let's go in a circle. Plantar flex, point, and then inversion, pushing the outer blade down like that. Dorsiflexion, pull it towards you, toes to knee. And then eversion, pushing the big toe and the heel down and trying to really get through to that, go back to plantar flexion. Maybe the opposite direction, eversion to dorsi to inversion, grounding the outer, pulling the inner to plantar. All right, you should be feeling a little fatigued at this point. Let's move back into the knee for a moment. Take your hands behind you and find that rotation at end range and then flex. It should feel intense. We're trying to fatigue. We're trying to make it where you're finding the edge. Kind of like lifting weights on a very small scale. Other direction, rotate and hold. Keep this going, a few more seconds, you're almost done. Okay, one more time, rotate, hold. And then back through center, rotate and hold and flex. Remember, you're at a knee rotation bodybuilding competition. Okay, let's let this go. All right, that should be intense. Whew, I feel it all along the shin, all these muscles. this whole area. Let's switch sides. I'm just gonna take the one knee in. We're gonna start from the very beginning. I'm gonna find the heel down, the knee is in flexion, whatever feels comfortable. Let's rotate to one side and hold, and then go for it. Well, actually first, I'm sorry, let's assess, and then take it back through the other side. And just figure out what you got. And then without momentum, right, we're gonna go to the end range. And then we're gonna think of it like flex. Create that flex of this articulation. Or maybe a better word is contraction, like contract the tissue in these end ranges. Because it could be extension. I mean, we just happen to label it flex, I feel. Right? This is flexion, but this is just another articulation. Keep this going, other side. I know, TMI. Holding for 5. You should feel it in the tissue, maybe also the ankle a little bit. One more time, rotate and hold. And then bring it back, rotate and hold, right? You're rotating the tibia. You should feel it in the tissue. We're gonna turn this into the ankle car. You're gonna take that same side arm underneath, ipsilateral, and then the opposite hand, contralateral. You're gonna hold either like this or like this. You're gonna stabilize the tibia, plantar flexion, point the toes. And then dorsiflexion, opposite direction, pull the toes towards your face. Inversion, think about blade, outer foot pushing into the ground, the insole pulling towards you. And then eversion, the big toe side. And then that heel pushing down to lengthen, and then the blade is pulling in towards you, opposite. Let's go in a circle, plantar flex. Inversion, pushing the blade down. Dorsiflexion, pull all the toes towards you. Eversion, push the big toe and the heel side down while lifting the blade. And then back to plantar flexion. Go in reverse. Eversion, pushing big toe and the heel. To dorsiflexion, pull toes towards your face. To inversion, the blade of the foot down, the big toe and the heel lifting. Back to plantar flexion. And again, you're just holding this so it doesn't rotate. Let's come back down. Back to the knee, rotate and hold. Find end range contraction. And this should be intense, right? You're trying to fatigue. We're not even using weight. That's why it's super safe. Other direction, hold and rotate. In reverse, rotate and hold. Okay, rotate other side, hold. Keep that going, intensify it if you can. Engage, contract. And then the other direction, go. Rotate and hold. Keep that going for 5, 4, 3, 2, all right. We can release that out now. Kind of let that go for a moment. All right, so there's a lot of knee rotation there and a bunch of ankle rotation, basically the ankle car, which you can always look at another video that we've done before. All right, let's come into a lunge position here, but mainly kind of a half kneeling. So I want the back knee down, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on just assessing the front knee and the ankle first. So we're gonna come forward into ankle dorsiflexion and knee flexion. I'm gonna see what we have there, or I'm gonna assess my own joint. Right? You might be back here. You don't have to be all the way forward like this. This is really dependent on where you are in the practice. Whatever your practice is, the life practice. Okay, now let's add the back leg. So instead of instead of flexing the hip, we're extending it. So we're gonna flex the knee, come onto the top of your thigh, right? You don't wanna be on the kneecap. You can adjust your hands. And then extend your hip. So both knees are flexed. The front hip is also flexed, but the back hip is extended. And it's more of a mental game here. I'm trying to flex my knees. I'm trying to open the back hip, and I'm just gonna keep this going. Knee flexion, hip extension, knee flexion, right? Lift the toes in the front. Try to dorsiflex more in your ankle, all right? How much flexion can you bring into it? How much extension in the back hip? How much plantar flexion in the back toe? All of it. Okay, let's slowly relax, right? You don't have to take the knee out of it. Just kind of relax it for a moment. We'll do one more. When you're ready, start to flex the back knee. Maybe you lift the front toes. Open the back hip as you flex the back knee. Flex the front knee. All right, and mentally try to check into all those articulations. Ankle dorsiflexion of the front foot. Knee flexion of the front leg, and hip flexion. The back leg, plantar flexion, knee flexion, and hip extension. Maybe 5 more seconds. Keep it going. 4, 3, 2. Okay, gently release. All right, you can come back. Take some weight off the back knee as you come out of this. Maybe just a light hamstring stretch here, which is the opposite of what you were doing in the fold, right? In the back hip, it was extended and the knee was flexed. Right now, your hip is flexed and the knee is extended. One of the reasons that is so good for you because it's basically the opposite of a fold, which is what we do a lot. Let's switch sides, nice and slow. All right, coming to the other side. Finding that same knee flexion and ankle dorsiflexion in the front. And then once you're here and you feel comfortable, let's lift the back knee. Make sure you're on the front of the thigh, like not the kneecap, or the top, let's say, above the knee. Squeeze knee flexion. Lift the toes in the front for more ankle dorsiflexion. Work hip flexion in the front and hip extension in the back. And try to pull this all together. And just keep it going. Flex your knee, extend your back hip, lift your toes in the front, flex your front hip, your front knee. Keep this going 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, and then just lightly release. Don't come out of it. Just release the tension lightly. You could back off a little bit in the front if you need to, but I'd rather you stay at your end range. And then last one, flex your knee. Open the back hip, lift the toes in the front, ankle dorsiflexion, knee flexion in the front, hip flexion in the front. In the back hip, extension. In the back knee, flexion. In the back ankle, plantar flexion. So just all that together, make it a mental game, keep checking into all of it. Let's keep this going a little bit longer. All right, let's gently come out of this. You can take your hands back to take some weight off the back knee. And then just a light runner's lunge or half Hanuman, whatever you want to call it. Remember, it's the opposite of what you did in the back leg. Flex your hip, extend the knee. Make the hip the first priority, all right? Start with hip flexion, then knee extension is the secondary. And you're just trying to use one to measure against the other. Okay, let's come up. Let's actually return out of this. Back to hands and knees. Let's actually come into standing. Or let's meet in a standing position. And now we're going to work with a little more of the ankle and loading. So I want you to roll your ankle, right? One of the #1 injury positions you could do. And just find it. Now think of inversion, right? You're pulling the insole pushing the blade of the foot in, and I want you to add some weight. All right, I'm in a light staggered lunge position here. I'm just trying to challenge the joint while it's in this inverted position. All right, and then I can return. I can do the other side. I have a small stagger, like a light lunge. Invert the ankle onto the blade and then give it the attention, like push into it. Think of it as a blade cutting into the floor. You can try both. Now this is also ankle and knee, because now the knees are going to come out a little bit and they're going to be weight bearing, so just be very careful if you wanted to add. I would not suggest just going for this position. I'm just showing you where, you know, healthy joints would probably be able to go. Okay, let's work on the final pattern for this little tutorial. We're going to come into a high squat, which is like goddess, and making sure that the feet are turned out and the knees can bend over the feet nicely. And once we do this, we're only going to work with the back leg. So I'm going to demonstrate it. You're going to come down into a high squat, no hands, lift the back heel, rotate. Now I still have rotation in the front knee, that's okay. I'm going to come down to this weird little lunge and then back up into the squat. So I'm loading the rotation in the knee. Lift the heel again, find the lunge. Don't worry about that alignment, that's what we desire. Light split squat, return to goddess. Let's do like 3 rounds. Only using the back leg. Don't move the front. Load the knee in rotation. Last one. And stand. All right, so this should be a nice little routine to warm you up for the day, or at least get you going in some way. I'm Jeff. This is Yoga Framework. Thanks for joining us.